My name's Andrew Fritz. I'm the Vice President of Financial Planning and Analysis. So, we have begun commercializing IMCIVREE starting in the United States, but spreading throughout Europe. And we begun this effort in 2021. And to expand into Europe is a really specific sequence of events that you need to work through. And working in a regulatory environment is certainly very challenging in that you got to be really well prepared and laid out. So, while we had individuals here with all the different expertise, finding individuals to dedicate all of their time to it and keep all those moving pieces together was extremely difficult. It was challenging. We had a project governance set up, but also it was fluid. It was one individual's time taking the lead and then another's, but we didn't have that consistency that was really needed and one person to really make sure we were driving towards success all the way along the path.
My name is Andy Sontag. I am the Vice President of Information Technology at Rhythm Pharmaceuticals, which is located here in Boston, Massachusetts. Today, a lot of going to Clarkston's about, I need someone to take a topic, to help understand it, to help organize it, and then drive us to get to whatever it is we're trying to accomplish. Because being a smaller company, we have individuals that are all very busy. They wear multiple hats, and those hats cover a lot of breadth. And it's very difficult for us to find someone who can focus on one topic, go deep into it, and then just own it and drive it and just get us to completion. So whether it's program management, project management, some thorny problem that we just need to kind of just go deep into it and just somehow try to make some sense of it and have some recommendations about where to go with it in the future, whatever those recommendations are. It's those things that require kind of intense focus that I always go to Clarkston and say, I've got this thing.
So our VP of IT recognized that we had a challenge here. He could see where we were floundering, where we were making progress, but he was well aware of the timelines that we were working to. And he recommended that we engage with Clarkston. Andy has a strong relationship with them in history, and so we brought in Swati and the Clarkston team. And from that point, it was an immediate plug and play.
So over the 10 years with Clarkston provided many services for us in all sorts of different topics. As mentioned, it started with Project Grow and the ERP. That ERP covered all sorts of different topics as well. So it wasn't just finance and supply chain, it was quality and commercial. So a lot of it was topics around that. And they also provided not just the technical resources, but provided the business analysis and understanding of, hey, this is best practice, why don't we go do this so we don't have to reinvent the wheel anymore. So first couple years, very ERP-centric. Then there were other projects, certainly around quality and implementation of quality systems. So TrackWise, QMS-based systems were certainly part of the conversation. We also did more ERP work, but more international ERP work to try to understand and expand our ERP systems and try to drive it there. One of the services certainly worth mentioning is we had a very large initiative last year for the internalization of our patient services activities. In life sciences, supporting the patients obviously are very important, especially with the complicated indications that we have. When we were a little bit smaller, we used to outsource that to a third party, and anytime you have a third party do it, it maybe doesn't have the intimacy of knowledge and relationship that we needed to have. We knew we were going to internalize that, both in process and systems, because everything was kind of turnkey outside. Immediate thought was to go to Clarkston and say, here's a large project, maybe one of the biggest ones we've done here at Rhythm, because it's very customer facing. Because anything that we do that might be amiss in that implementation would directly impact our ability to support the customer, and in some cases maybe even provide the customer with the product. So when we talked to Clarkston, really in that initial idea, we had a few people join our team that did just an amazing job. We talked about the different approaches in regards to experience and kind of commitment to it. The individual that headed up that project just threw herself into it and really just became a core part of the team, to the point where the individuals who were on the business side I've always looked to her to say, hey, I have this other problem related to this. I have this other discussion related to it. So it ultimately became less about the rollout and implementation, but a lot about the business processes that all surround it, which is a great sign of respect for Clarkston and the individuals that were involved in it, because they ended up really, because not only was it a new system, but it was new processes, it was new function that kind of didn't even exist before. So just kind of an amazing work for a key system that was very kind of front and center, because to this day we use those systems. Obviously we use them every day, but there's a lot of information that flows from the system all the way to our CEO, because the amount of prescriptions we write obviously drive revenue and drive our own success. So plugging all that in together is just fantastic.
At the end of the day, when you're in life sciences, particularly in a rare disease, you measure results in could we serve our patients? And when we take a look at the markets we've entered in Europe, when we had the regulatory approval, we were able to provide therapy to them. And so there was a lot of work. May not have necessarily been what we thought would be our first solution, but we found those second optimal solutions to be able to meet that goal. And that's what we were able to do. So we are in several markets, both on early access programs and as well as fully approved and reimbursed commercialized. So it wouldn't be there if we hadn't had an individual and team helping us guide and make sure we were accountable.
When I think about Clarkston in regards to kind of the strengths and why I keep going to them, there's a level of maturity and experience at Clarkston that I just find amazing. I've dealt with a lot of firms that are kind of in this space. And one of the difficulties, I think, is you always find the people at those firms that are experienced, but then there's a whole group underneath that are, let's say the junior folks, people that might be just coming out of college or a little inexperienced in their job. And inevitably, you kind of land some of those individuals, and maybe you don't have the same experience that you might with someone who's more experienced. I never have that conversation with Clarkston, because even if someone appears to be a little younger in their career, the level of maturity, the level of experience, and the level of support that Clarkston gives them, I'm sure behind the scenes, because I see it once in a while, for them to continue to be successful is just amazing. So for me, what I look for, and again, part of the reason I always come back at Clarkston, is I just know what I'm going to get. I'm going to get a solid, professional, experienced individual. The other part of it as well is